27th. Joining me are two of my colleagues, so we have a quorum here. We have a member of the MTA board who knows a lot about all of this stuff, Jose Huizar, and we have Mr. Paul Koretz, who's also from the west side, so we both feel this gridlock insanity too. So now we're calling the meeting to order. Apologize we were a few minutes late, but you know, I haven't even had lunch, but I do have some tea here, so I feel like I'm doing okay. Okay, first item is item number 1.
Item number 1 is the Department of Transportation report relative to the Special Parking Revenue Fund 5-year parking operations and maintenance plan for fiscal years 2013 through 2017.
And colleagues, what I'd like to suggest is that we continue this item, but before we do, I'd like to be assured that there's no fiscal impact to the transfer if we do not continue this item. If there's no impact, then we will continue the item in order to provide the CAO and LADOT to reconcile their projections on surplus. Could someone explain that if we're okay to do that from staff? Don't hesitate to get up. Just be real quick about it.
The CAO will respond.
Okay, great. That's all I want to hear for the record.
Ida Rubio with the Office of the CAO. We don't believe that there is an impact because the surplus transfer is related to the 11-12 budget, and the adopted plan before you, or the 5-year plan before you, is regarding the 12-13 and going forward. So we're trying to get some clarity from the City Attorney's Office on as far as the ordinance that was drafted, but we believe that it won't affect the surplus transfer.
Colleagues, any comments on that, or are you okay with me continuing this item?
That's fine. It's fine with me.
How long would we continue it for?
The last meeting in July. We'll try to get
Last meeting in July.
27th, I think. No, 25th, July 25th.
Okay, so when we come back to recess, we'll get an answer on that. Okay, so let's just continue this now until that last meeting. Thank you very much for that. Item number 2, or item number 4, it's being suggested that we approve this on consent. Colleagues, would you like to have a report from DOT or just take a peek at it? I'm comfortable with doing it on consent unless someone has an objection.
Item number 4 is the DOT report relative to the administrative procedures that the department will use to process requests from council and mayor to not enforce certain parking restrictions.
Seems like there's no concern on that. Okay, we will approve that on consent. It's unanimous by the committee.
Oh, yes, you have.
Okay, let's talk about the special agenda. Staff has technical changes on special agenda number 1. What is special agenda number 1?
Special agenda item number 1 is a CAO report relative to the establishment of the new Westchester parking meter zone and the adoption of the zone parking meter rates. And item 2 is the CAO report relative to expanding the boundaries of the Palms parking meter zone and the adoption of the zone parking meter rates.
We ask staff to explain the technical changes.
Good morning, good afternoon, Dan Mitchell, Department of Transportation. The item before you is to establish a new parking meter zone in Westchester in the Great Council District 11. The report before you has several recommendations, but one that we need to add is the authorization for the department to install the meters in the newly established parking meter zone. So we just ask that you add that council instruction.
Does anybody have a comment on that, colleagues? Please, Mr. Kress.
No, I think it's great. I have been nudging everyone to do 98th Street for a while every time I go near the airport and park there for free, which is kind of nice, but I recognize that's a lot of missed revenue and turnover opportunities. I'm very excited that we're doing this.
I just saw someone jump up. Did you want to say?
No.
Please.
No, he's not.
Yes. Speak or forever hold your tongue.
I'm sorry, Councilman David Verano from the CAO. I'm just catching up. So am I saying you continued this? Or you're?
No, we said staff has technical changes. And what is being recommended that we do with this?
Oh, I'm sorry, I
To
just
approve it
misunderstood.
is what we
which
want
item
to do.
You're on item one, special.
Did you want to explain that?
Yeah. No, yeah, I think it was,
He was in the wrong spot.
no.
Yeah, we want you to know that we've moved forward with that. You were late. Okay.
Okay, just for the record, one other thing I wanted to mention is I just learned that as we laid out those stalls along the long blocks there, we actually found there are more metered spaces than we originally included in our report. So originally it was 130 some, and we're finding that it's closer to 190. But in any event, those are all budgeted, and it would just mean additional revenues. So
Okay,
Just
so
wanted to put that on the
recommendation
record.
is to approve these
As amended.
as amended.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Tourette's and seconded by Mr. Weezer. Unanimous. Thank you very much for that.
John White, City Clerk, is the amendment also for item number 2?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The same amendment, that the department be authorized to install parking meters in the new expanded zone.
Thank you.
Done. Thank you. Now, we have items for public hearings. We have no public comment cards if anybody wanted to do a public comment card. Would you please read items number 2?
Item number 2 is a DOT report relative to the proposed projects to submit to the State of California Department of Transportation to compete for Highway Safety Improvement Program Cycle 5 grant funds.
Okay. Staff would explain this to us? I have a bunch of questions, too, after that.
Good afternoon. Arsen Mangasarian from Department of Transportation. The report in front of you is a report from General Manager, Department of Transportation, requesting authorization for the department to submit grant applications to Caltrans to compete for the Highway Safety Improvement Project grants that is available to the state. It's $100 million available, over $100 million available to the state, and we're targeting about 10% of that amount in this application.
We're looking at about 10 million?
Yes.
Okay. Here are the questions. How many of these projects are new, and how many were previously submitted for previous HSIP cycles in the past?
As far as I know, all these projects are new projects. They have been studied. If projects have changed throughout years, some of this project may be similar to the projects that we submitted in the past, but these are all new studies based on the crash data that has been available through UC Berkeley's system, the computer system.
Now, how much ZIP funding does the city typically receive?
Somewhere between $5 to $7 million in the past.
So we're pushing for 10,
Yes,
and we feel that we got it together enough to do that.
I believe so, yes.
What are the downsides, if any?
Downsides are if Caltrans decides to change the tunes as they have done in the past with us, they had supported new signals, installation of new traffic signals in the past. They may not support it this time strongly as in the past. They may not. So downsides would be what Caltrans is going to decide to do, and based on the applications they're going to receive from everybody, all the cities in California.
Okay, one thing I want you to come back to committee if we need to, if in fact Caltrans is not working with us, then we need to get our state assembly and state senate partners to assist
Sure.
in that. Can we count on you if you feel that something like that might be?
I will request to come back to me.
Okay, is there sufficient city staff to implement projects that may receive the SIP funding?
Well, again, council member, depending on how many projects we get funded for. Currently, we're right on the border, the amount of staff that we have to deliver the projects. We have some issues with the Caltrans existing, not HSIP, but safe route to school issues that we're trying to resolve. We hope that we can resolve it by July 20th, which is the deadline for the applications for this cycle of HSIP.
Because one thing I want you to know, I had a terrific partner with Betsy Butler. We were dealing with the tunnel near the airport, and we put all the folks in the room. Instead of people going like this, we had them all pointing at themselves, thanks to the assembly member and my involvement. Now they have an MOU, who's responsible for what, and we're seeing dramatic improvements in the tunnel. So if there's ever a need that I need to play any of that, we're more than happy to do that.
All right, thank you.
on that level.
Thank you.
What types of improvements are you proposing for these projects in a general sense?
There is no specific types of improvement proposed for these locations. These locations have been chosen based on the crash data. We feel these locations, whatever we choose to do the remedy about the safety, is going to be very competitive. So major part of the scoring high on this application is having crashes happening in these locations, and these are high. All of these locations have high crash data.
Safety is the number one.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, have you met with each of the council offices to discuss the project proposals
We
are applying for?
not personally, but we have been in contact through emails and telephone conversations. I have been talking to a few of the council.
Everybody was aware of it in which
Absolutely.
districts it
We
was.
started this process about a month and a half ago, so.
I mean, I think it would be important, obviously, to ensure that we get that support from my colleagues and all that.
Absolutely.
My recommendation is to approve DOT's recommendation for colleagues. It's open to you guys. Fine with it?
What's our funding source for our part of the match?
The match is Proposition C. We're proposing to use Proposition C for our match. It's $900,000 cap on each project. As you can see, we're going for $1 million projects, and we're proposing that $100,000 of that total cost comes from Proposition C.
And anything that we can do as individual council members to improve our
Absolutely.
chances?
You can give us letters of support for these projects. When we get your approval, we're going to go back and contact your council offices and kind of go through there are like 50 countermeasures that are available to us to resolve safety issues at these locations. We will discuss them with your deputies, and we'll pick the best resolution or best solution for these problems, and those are going to be based on your approvals. So we will ask for your support, maybe letter of support on this.
No, I know there's some great potential projects in my district, so I'm happy to help any way I can. If it's a letter from our office or calls to officials or whatever seems to be appropriate, please let me know, and our office is happy to help.
We humbly thank you.
Humbly, I like that. Anything else? No? Okay, do you have a motion to move forward?
Move the item.
Okay, unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're not trying to rush things, it just seems everybody's got their act together around here today. It's very nice. Now we're going to go to item number 3.
Item number 3 is a Planning Department report relative activities undertaken for the implementation of the 2010 bicycle plan during the period of January through June 2012.
Now I know why. We have cyclists in the room. Okay, give us a presentation, then I got a bunch of questions.
Yeah, good afternoon, council members. My name is David Summers, Department of City Planning, Citywide Section, Bicycle Plan. And as was mentioned, this...
Just explain that you're new and how you got on here and all this.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was hired to a position that was created to specifically implement the bicycle plan as part of the Department of City Planning. So it's a real testament, I think, that Department of City Planning is putting real resources behind plan implementation, and we're taking it very seriously. And so part of my tasks are involved I facilitate the environmental review process for the bike facilities that are needed to conduct an EIR. I lead the bicycle plan implementation team meetings and prepare reports such as this with coordination with the Department of Transportation.
Have you met with the cycling community and interacted with them? Are you part of it? What's
Oh.
your background?
Oh, my background, yeah. I mean, I'm fairly well familiar with the bicycle community. I was participating in the bicycle plan when it was being adopted, just as an interested party, and also as a staff member of the Department of City Planning. So, I have some relationships with the bicycle community, and I bike a lot. I bike to work every day. I bike everywhere I go. So I meet people on the street. Sometimes I'll ask them, what do you think of the street conditions? And I'll be like, well, this and that. And then be like, well, you're talking to the right guy. So, I give them my card and just invite them to participate in our BPIT meetings and, that kind of informal sort of outreach and whatnot.
And of course, the great lady sitting next to you is a cyclist too, and has been cycling. And frankly, when we went through different changes around here. Paul Backstrom, who is my transportation guy, is a cyclist and a public transportation guy. So I'm getting firsthand experience. I have ridden a bike, but it was 30 years later, and I'm still afraid to fall off and bust myself up. I'm getting old. I mean, you know, give me a real safe route that I don't have to worry about a car.
Yeah.
Or making it so safe that even though there's a car there, I have that freedom. I just don't, at this point in my life, want to put myself through it. But I am a cyclist historically, and I'm back on a bike, and I'm looking forward to all our bike plans. So I just wanted to put that out, and Paul has been incredible for me, too. Okay. Could you explain this now? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, essentially, you know, I'll turn it over to Michelle at this point to really talk about all the great work that DOT is doing in the implementation of the 5-year implementation plan and describing the facilities that have been in place.
Michelle Mowry, Senior Bicycle Coordinator, Department of Transportation. I'm just going to real quickly and highlight some of the items that are called for in your report. The bicycle plan has a 5-year implementation strategy, which is 200 miles over 5 years. It was adopted with the bicycle plan, and we're moving forward on that. We're on schedule to complete the 40-mile target by the end of the month, by the end of the fiscal year. I think you'll be happy to see that we look to exceed that. We are continuing to work on 4th Street and Yucca as our first bicycle-friendly streets. 4th Street has 2 roundabouts in design. Yucca in Council District 13 is actually going to get some formalized, instead of the bollards that are in place now, we're actually going to put some formalized raised medians in there and close the roadway and make it a better condition for cyclists out there. We are continuing our Shero implementations. We have 20 miles in last year, actually, I think 21 miles last year, and we're looking at another 20 for next year that we have scheduled. We continue work on our bicycle pass. We're working with the Expo Authority on Expo 2. The Metro Orange Line extension opens this weekend, which is a project that we've done in coordination with Metro and will accept responsibility, maintenance, and operation for. San Fernando Road out in the valley has been in design, construction, in several elements for a number of years, is fully funded, and we will be, the bridge is in construction now, and the Phase 2 project will be in construction this summer. And we continue to work on LA River and are pushing out new segments on that. David mentioned that he's jumped on board as our bicycle planner, handling the environmental issues in BPIT. Last year, as a part of the BPIT process, we did an online survey of facilities and how to move the next set of facilities forward. BPIT and the folks that attend make recommendations about what facilities we should be looking to move up into the queue, but we also had an online survey available on the web, so folks who couldn't make the meeting had an opportunity to move forward their favorite facilities. We're developing the next environmental package, which will be year 3 of the 5-year implementation with the BPIT this year, and we'll be putting that out to them at the next meeting. Next year's package, 40 miles of new bike lanes, is the environmental package that David's working on now with our staff and the consultant team. We put in 351 bicycle racks over the last 6 months, 601 last year, which is an all-time high for us. We've never gotten that many racks on the ground in one time. We're also continuing to expand our bicycle-friendly business program, which includes the corrals, and we're also adding a couple other little pieces to that. We had a small grant to receive or install some public bicycle workstations. That essentially would be a little bicycle work stand. So if something went wrong with your bike, you could put it on this thing, and there'll be some tools on cables that you can use publicly. And we're going to look for public entities, businesses, if you will, to adopt them, very much like the corrals, but we would install them and they would maintain them. And we already have some interest from the folks on Sunset Triangle to do one out there. Wayfinding signage program continues to move forward. We're moving into the construction phase. We expect to have those signs in sometime this year. And these are essentially signs on our bicycle-friendly streets that tell folks of the attractors that are nearby and how far it is to get there. And we hope that the fact that it'll show the mileage on them will get people to reduce their trips by auto and realize they can get there quick on a bike because it's a short distance. LA DOT is taking over the MyFig project from the CRA. Some of you may be familiar with that. There was a bond issue to really change the way FIG looks and operates, primarily from the Expo Park campus past USC down to LA Live. We are in transition now. The CRA board has voted to move that project to the city, and they'll be coming to council soon for your final recommendation, but we're moving forward on design. We have about 10% design. We're working with the consultant team that the CRA was working with now and are playing with those concepts as we move forward. We just got the bad news. We didn't get the Tiger grant. We heard yesterday. The announcement was late last Friday. We had hoped for an $18 million package to essentially build out LA River, but we just heard we didn't get the money.
Why?
We don't know. There were no projects funded in Southern California, only, I believe, 2 in California total. And they were in Northern California. They were $30 million plus rail projects that came in with a $20 million plus matches in each scenario. So they had big matches, but probably cost benefit is better for the overall package. I think there was 1 bike project funded on the East Coast. So we don't know much more than that, but we'll do further investigation.
Yeah, when you do that, I'd like to know which electeds down here in Washington could maybe do some work to help.
I will tell you that we had tons of support for this program. We had letters of support from council, state legislators, as well as federal legislators. So almost everybody who could have gotten on board from our end did and was supportive, from community garden organizations to Roy Ball Allard's office. So we had a lot of support. Things are what they are. And I should also note that we still have a couple of grant applications out there. We have a Safe Routes to School application that we're waiting to hear on, an Office of Traffic Safety education program we're waiting to hear on, and we are going to put 3 projects in that HSIP program that Pauline just talked about. Thank you.
Okay, let me just make a comment, and then I have a bunch of questions just for the record, too. Expo Line Phase 2 is about to start. Mr. Koretz and I are now on the construction authority. First, I'm very upset that they don't have bathroom stops along the way. It's totally unacceptable to me, especially, like, for instance, just to give you a theoretical story. We get the team, and we can all be happy, and everybody from my side of town gets on that train to go to a game. When they go to a game, they're not driving. What do some people do? They drink. And if you can't stop anywhere, if you go to the restroom, it's a disaster. So I'm very upset that MTA and all of their leadership didn't address the bathroom. Ms. Kretz and I both strongly are going to make sure we get them in our stops. And my hope is they can retro back to the other stops and get over this perversion issue and realize human beings all need to go to the restroom. I just find that unacceptable. Secondly, we have been saying, and I don't know the complete answers on this, is I want an absolutely safe bike path next to the expo line so that one can ride the bike on that path. How are we doing on that?
We have a couple things that we need to work out, and we're continuing to work on it. Councilmember Koretz is familiar with some of this. We have a project that the Phase 1 project, which is complete and on the ground, is primarily bike lanes in the city of LA with a short bike path extension in Culver City where it picks up at Jefferson. Right. We're to pick up the bike path beyond Jefferson and extend it all the way to Santa Monica. Santa Monica also has a grant, and we'll be doing the bike path project within their city. There's a section of where the bicycle path becomes elevated. That section, gosh, I'm really bad at this. It's the section where, I think this is in Councilmember Koretz's district, where the path follows a grade up and becomes separated from the roadway and is only so wide. So we are and this parallels national. We're very clear at that point we can't go with the rail, and there's not the width or right-of-way to allow us to be able to do that. Our plan at that point is to go bicycle lanes on national, to link to the existing bicycle lanes on motor, and at that point we're working with the homeowners, we think, homeowners in that area to take the bicycle lanes underneath the 10 freeway, under the 10 freeway, and to rejoin the rail right-of-way there. If you're familiar with the right-of-way as it exists, there's a tunnel under the 10 that the trains will take. There's not enough width to get bikes and trains under there together safely, so we're taking the bicyclists on Motor Avenue on bicycle lanes, and we want to rejoin on the other side of the 10 freeway using Caltrans, an existing easement. At that point, we've got bicycle path the whole way. The issue will be the crossings and how we solve all those. Our team at DOT is working with the authority on the design And we've got one gentleman who's assigned almost full-time to this and working on the design. We're working with the Bicycle Advisory Committee for the city, as well as the Expo Bicycle Advisory Committee to resolve those issues.
Good. Okay, now I'm going to go through my formal questions here, just for the record. Some of it you've answered, but some of it I want to make sure is on the record. Could you explain the process that the staff undertakes when identifying how bicycle projects are prioritized for funding applications?
As I mentioned in my previous comments, we have a bicycle plan, that essentially breaks into 800 miles of bicycle paths and 800 miles of bike-friendly streets. I'm sorry, 800 miles of bicycle lanes and 800 miles of bike-friendly streets, roughly. So what we have is this 5-year implementation that identifies 200 miles that's our priority to move forward. The 5-year implementation plan identified the first 40 miles and then kicked everything into another category to be determined. We've already prioritized next year with information from the bicycle plan implementation team, and I mentioned that online survey we used. I should also mention that in the course of funding applications, the source of funds will sometimes dictate the projects that we can and cannot choose. Like, for instance, HSIP is very clear that it works on a cost-benefit ratio. The projects that have the best cost-benefit ratio and the highest collision rate are the projects that will work the best. So for that particular one, we know we have the highest collision rate for bicyclists on the city streets. So we're taking that next 40-mile of package and applying for HSIP money, and we'll hopefully get that money, which will reserve more local money to do other stuff.
Very good. Has the state authorized the transfer of MyFig project to LADOT with CRA match funds, and could you also give us a brief overview of that project?
So the MyFig project, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, again, we're waiting for this to come to council, for the council to accept the project for us. But it starts at MLK and finishes at 7th Street. There are also 2 spur lines, if you will. 11th Street is included in the package, as well as Bill Robertson Lane, which is the roadway right behind Exposition Park and the museums. So they're looking at design concepts. Well, we are looking at design concepts primarily on Figueroa. What we're looking at is a protected bicycle lane or a cycle track, something that takes our Spring Street green bike lane, if you will, and elevates it by providing a physical barrier of some type. You talked about having a lane that you were comfortable in riding, that's separated from traffic that you felt safe with. That's what we're looking at doing here. And really, we're looking at 4,000 kids on Strand Cruiser bikes, 1-speed Strand Cruiser bikes at the USC campus who are going to want to ride to LA Live. These are not your fast and furious riders, if you will, who are comfortable riding with 40-mile-an-hour traffic. So each intersection, signalized intersection, would have a separate bicycle head, a signal head, and a separate bicycle phase, and they will have their own space to ride. So that's what we're looking at for the design for there. We're looking at something similar on 11th, and Bill Robertson Lane will be very different based on the issues there in the park.
I like that, because on Spring Street, the green thing there, I see automobiles cut over before they go to those spots. Like, I take 3rd Street, but I don't get over there until I have that little break that allows me to get to 3rd. And what I love is the cyclists on that piece of green feeling safe and cars off to a distance. So the barrier concept that you're putting in there would make me happy from my end. How many bikeway facilities does LADOT anticipate will be installed in year 12-13?
Again, I had mentioned the environmental package that we are preparing and David's working on right now. That is a package of 40, just slightly over 40 miles of bikeways for next year in the environmental package. We're also looking at another 20 miles of Sharrows. So our minimum goal would be 60 miles, but we also have the various bicycle path projects, as well as the wayfinding signage and our bike-friendly streets. So we have a number of things in the works.
Okay, I just want to know if this is correct, that you're going to be doing an EIR for a number of bike lane projects that may require travel lane or parking removals?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's how a bicycle facility or bikeway ends up getting evaluated in EIR, because it's already pre-screened and determined that a level of service degradation would occur on a given corridor if a travel lane were to be removed for the installation of a bike lane. So that's the screening that they that we know to incorporate those into the environmental impact report.
That's great. And could you explain how the EIR process will work and how many projects will be included?
Yeah, there's about, as Michelle said, there's about 43 miles of bikeways within the first year EIR, and they're distributed all over the city. I mean, there's several on the west side. On the south side, there's MLK. Downtown is my three corridors incorporated in Colorado Boulevard and North Figueroa on Northeast LA, and then the Valley also includes Lankershim and Cohanga Pass, and then a question about so the EIR process is that that's the scope. But then the EIR process is that the notice of preparation to prepare that lets the public know we're preparing a document is going to be released tomorrow. So that's going to go live. We've got a really great distribution list. It's going to go to neighborhood councils. All the council offices will get it. We have a very extensive interested party list that we've gotten from the bike plan adoption itself. So we're going to have fairly good distribution on that and acknowledgement. And then we have 3 scoping meetings that will be a part of the scoping process. One in west side, downtown, and northeast LA. We're also going to do a webinar.
And you're going to put that all out there so everybody knows when it is and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. That's all incorporated in notice of preparation.
Okay. I just have one final comment, sort of. Oh, please do.
Thank you. And I think it's been noticed throughout the city, and I hear comments that we're going out and a bit more aggressive in getting our bike lanes out there, so we appreciate that.
Okay.
The one thing I do request is that my office has been told a general time when the bike lanes would be completed, but on 2 occasions we didn't know till after the fact, and so we're telling the community one thing and then it happens and we were surprised. So if you could better coordinate with council offices as to when the crews are actually going to go out there and start putting out those new bike lanes, that would be appreciated.
Sure, we'll do that.
My last comment, and then obviously Mr. Koretz and Mr. Weezer as well, we've come a long way in a relatively short time, but the really tough projects are out there on the horizon. It's going to be really important to justify the improvements we recommend, which means tracking collision rate, bike counts, etc. Do you have specific recommendations in how we could focus our efforts in the coming year?
Well, the collision rates we're already using, I think we talked about that briefly with the HSIP. And as you may or may not know, DOT is getting very close to hiring a PED coordinator, working with a PED group, and we're going to use that collision data to work together to identify, hot spots that we can continue to improve on. We also have, the department still does counts, and when the projects that we kicked into the EIR, we've ordered manual counts to be able to do that. We do have some existing data, but we have also done, one of our students reviewed the DOT's counting methodology, has made a number of recommendations to save the data we have, to more standardize the numbers, and normalize them with what we all have, and to make improvements in the future, and we're making those recommendations now.
Well, the recommendation of you folks is to receive and file this report, but Mr. Koretz.
I'm wondering if we're doing much to promote our existing routes. I know we're focused on adding, but what do we do to promote existing routes? What do we do to improve safety for bicyclists and motorists on our existing bicycle routes? We
have a website at bicyclela.org that's been in existence for a number of years. Last year we actually overhauled it, and the maps are up there electronically. We have a printed map. We probably have anywhere in the neighborhood from 5 to a dozen requests per week for the printed map, and we do mail those out free of charge. We also work with Metro on their brand new map, and we put out all of our existing stuff as a part of their map and work with other agencies to do that. I had mentioned the education component. We have an existing program for middle schoolers, primarily middle schoolers, but some elementary schools as well. We use a portion of our local TDA Article 3 funding to do a bicycle transit and walking education program out in the schools. Pat Hines and the Safe Routes program are the contractors that do that for us. And I mentioned that Office of Traffic Safety grant that we've applied for as well to do more education program with a little bit of everybody. We're not doing as much with adults. We'd like to do more ride-based information with that grant, if we get that grant.
Well, that all sounds very positive, so I'm glad to hear that. On the new bicycle path along the Expo line, I know there's been one area that's sort of been a hot spot in my district where the bike path would go behind some homes of homeowners that are not too happy about it. Have we made any progress in trying to work with them and coming to some meeting of the minds on how we can make this work?
As you know, we have a number of legal issues with this, and we're waiting for direction from council. So we haven't heard yet from the city attorney's office how to proceed, and we're waiting to hear from them.
So otherwise, no progress in
Nothing
terms
new.
of working
Nothing
with them?
new.
Nothing new. Okay. Thank you.
Golly, community out there, nobody filled out a card. Anybody want to speak? You happy with the direction we're going? When do we do a report and an update so we all are on the same wavelength? When's the next one?
Quarterly reports. So the next report would be, let's see, what is this? So July, August, September. At the end of September, would that be September, October? Yeah.
All right, and the suggestion is to receive and file.
So moved.
So moved. We have the head of the department here. Yes, please.
Thank you, Councilman. I just wanted to add, we'll have, Jaime de la Vega, DOT. We'll have updated fiscal year-end figures early next week, so we'll send those out as well. Then maybe I could suggest we could work with your office, the CLA and the clerk, maybe set up, the quarterly schedule so it coincides with the end of the month so we can actually give you up-to-date data.
Yeah, that'd be very helpful because frankly, I rely on the cyclist community who know what's going on better than I do. And the more we involve them, the more they're part of the process, the happier they are, the happier I am. Because ever since that incident I had at Mandeville Canyon that shook me up, I've been really positive about wanting to see that this type of stuff never happens again. Is there anything else on the agenda?
No.
Wow. Any public comment of any kind? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming.